Welcome to another edition of the Scruffy Ginger Podcast. I'm your host and your Scruffy Ginger, Matt Graves. This is going to be a new kind of episode. We have two guests on, and by God, the audio situation, trying to figure out how to pull this thing off, for whatever reason, blew my mind. So, but we have a solution, and we have Drew on the podcast, back again, third podcast in a row, becoming a little bit of a regular here.
How about that?
And we have Spencer Bradshaw himself coming from Chattanooga, phoning in. Spencer, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, guys. I am happy to be here. Tighten up.
Tighten up, man.
Tighten up.
Well, hey, for those who don't know, Spencer has been a Titans fan for a super long time, a diehard. And Spencer, just kind of tell us a little bit about how that all started, and maybe a couple of your kind of more unique memories that you have as a Titans fan.
For sure. So I'm actually from Springfield, Tennessee. It's like 30 minutes north of Nashville. So I grew up in Nashville. And when the Titans moved to town, I was a young buck and played like peewee football and all that good stuff. My dad, my family, kind of like the rest of the state, was they were all Vols fans, and college football kind of ruled the weekend. But it's always been interesting to me because I've always felt like when the Titans moved to town, they were more concerned with 8-year-old Spencer than they were 40-year-old Jackie and Wayne Bradshaw, just because they knew, I feel like hopefully they knew, and if you kind of see this today, like they knew that if they could create, a culture and fandom with those kids, and they knew how important it was that we would grow up and kind of age out and become fans for life. So I've kind of been a fan my entire life. I've, there's photos of me and almost diapers wearing Eddie George jersey. So it's always been my thing. I've got some old mementos from real small. I have no clue how old I was. The year the Titans went to the Super Bowl, I wrote poems for my elementary school class.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Depression haikus after the Super Bowl loss.
Exactly. But it's talking about, watching Steve McNair in my den. And
wow.
There's some good little images on the paper as well. So it's always been a part of my year every year. And it's only gotten better, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, so I grew up a Titans fan. I played football myself anyway. So it's football's kind of always been something I've done. My dad played football. And that's that. And now I've been fortunate enough that my wife's a big fan now. Hated football when we met, and she's a legit fan, which is awesome. So,
she is. She is.
She's a legit fan. She tells me things sometimes before I've read it. It's kind of a contest sometimes. She might tell me if someone misses practice before I know it. So, it's somewhat cliche, but I've been a fan for life. Being an adult and being a fan has been twice as fun. I've been fortunate to have a lot of really cool experiences with the Titans and the NFL. Call it dumb luck, but I've gotten. I guess are you looking for like top moments in my Titans fandom, or just some cool things I've done, or top three. Okay. I think I have a feeling what number one's going to be, but I'll see if I'm right. Well, there's a few different things. So I've been fortunate enough. I'm a 2-time Hall of Fans member. So each year, and they've probably been doing this 5 years. Every gate in the stadium has some banners with fans on it, and it's kind of if you're a big fan, a super fan, or something like that, you'll get your picture in the stadium. So, and you get season tickets. So I've been up there twice. It's awesome because the first banner that I got was a couple years ago. It was the previous playoff run in 2017. And I lived in across from a diehard Patriots fan, a true Boston guy. He's from Boston. So that week I hung up my 30-foot banner off the side of my house so that he had to look at it all week.
Hey, Spencer, so just to clarify, so what you're saying, if I understand it, is that you have two more banners that have hung on football stadiums more than Vanderbilt ever has. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. So I know that I don't know everyone's allegiances.
Go ahead. Sorry,
I don't know everyone's allegiances. So I like the Vols. I cheer for the Vols on Saturday. Professional football is much more important to me. But being from Nashville, I'm not like my dad, right? Like I'm fine if Vanderbilt wins. I feel like the couple generations ahead of us, God forbid Vanderbilt wins. They hate it.
Oh yeah.
But as a Vols fan, I don't mind it as long as it's not against the Vols.
So before you go into these three moments, something that I wanted to point out that's so interesting, because we're roughly the same age, and you have this unique perspective growing up in Nashville, and I kind of want to give you mine growing up in East Tennessee, and I'm sure you have friends like this, but I think, Matt, your path was a little different than mine, but just to give you a little background with me, my dad went to UT. I went to UT. I grew up in Knoxville during the Peyton Manning, T. Martin, Casey Clausen days. So for me, the Titans initially were a great addition to my Sunday, because I hadn't had that before, obviously. And I mean, I did. I bought into the Titans. I was so prideful and excited of the fact that we had an NFL team finally in the state of Tennessee. And I think it's so cool that Nashville got that team at the time that they did, because when you think about the changes that Nashville's had over the last 20 years, I mean, it really was an amazing time to insert a franchise, frankly, of any kind into the city, because we've seen the Preds and the Titans grow with the city. But it wasn't that I wasn't a big Titans fan. I was. The thing about growing up around here, Spencer, is I think that I took what the Titans were in the late 90s, early and mid 2000s for granted. And the reason for that was because the Vols were so dominant that, you saw the Titans and you thought as a kid, oh, well, of course this football team from Tennessee is good. That's what teams from Tennessee do in football. They win.
Oh, man.
So for me, there's this feeling almost of regret having not maybe appreciated the McNair and Eddie George days as much as I feel like I should have, because my fandom has grown so much over the last 10 to 15 years simply from the fact that, I watched those guys leave. I've watched the Titans fall and now pick themselves back up. So it's just kind of a unique, perspective, I think, a little different from yours in the fact that I just kind of took it for granted, because I expected great football because I lived in East Tennessee, and that was the expectation with the university. And, now, growing up, kind of like you said, and being an adult and getting to appreciate that, that growth and being part of, this building of a true franchise, it has been really, really neat. And I appreciate it so much more now because of that, I think.
Well, I think for me, growing up, it was even less about who was winning or what have you. I was a little league football player, and as cheesy as it sounds, Eddie George and Steve McNair really were like my heroes. And I don't if my mom told me that for a while, I was like, no, you're kidding, right? But she dug up a few years ago those poems, and I literally had poems and drawings of these guys. And so when we retired the jerseys this year, it was kind of weird. It was actually special, which was really neat. And so I think I was young enough that, winning or losing, it was just, you didn't really know. Well, you was just like, this is just what we get, right? This is what we get out of the Titans. And it was just, it was just somehow part of growing up. And then it became something else, which is really neat. But yeah, I totally understand the dynamic of living in Knoxville. We talked about our connection to Davis Burton. Davis has taken me to a lot of Vols games, and I never had gone to a Vols game until college, and I've had some incredible experiences in that stadium that definitely trumped anything that I experienced with the Titans until just very recently, to be honest. And that's kind of harpens back to what I was talking about, where our age group, these folks that are lifelong fans, they're aging out. And they're finally they have buying power. And so they're traveling, they're buying season tickets, they're creating their own culture. I've always, and still today, honestly, I'm still jealous of, so backstory, my wife and I, we try to go to a different away game every year. So we've been to Pittsburgh, we've been to Buffalo, now we've been to Oakland. And so you've got these like blue blood teams, right? And we want to go to Green Bay next year. And their fans, I mean, we were in Buffalo last year and the team was not any good. And it was a packed house and they were just going wild for their team. And so like, I think I've always desired that out of the Titans, and it's been really cool because I feel like the past 2 years, you're starting to see some of that come to fruition because little 8-year-old Spencer and everyone else that was 8 years old, we're growing up and we have buying power and we have families, and it's becoming part of our family culture, just the same that it is in Buffalo or Green Bay or Kansas City. And that's been really, really cool. And you can feel that in the stadium now in a way that you couldn't feel 4 or 5 years ago. You couldn't feel it wasn't there.
Yeah, dude, I remember. So I first I'll touch on this. I don't know if you knew this. I have the same tradition with my buddy Jimmy, who we went to games growing up with. He every year we started it 2 years ago, going to an away game, and we saw the Cowboys Monday night game a couple of years ago, and then we went to last year, and then we went to the Panthers game this year. So that's cool that you guys are doing that too. I knew that you guys had been. I didn't know if it was like a tradition or just kind of like a spontaneous kind of random thing. But we're actually trying to look to go to the Packers game too. So we should definitely
very cool.
Definitely meet up.
So it's all dependent on whether or not it's in September. If it's in September, I'm not going. It's got to be cold. It's got to be a Green Bay experience.
You got to experience the frozen tundra, you know. And to go back to one thing real quick, because I do want to get into these top 3 moments, and then obviously at some point we need to move on to the preview. But you know, something you talked about, and once again, this is just it's about the time in which we were born and raised, and the trajectory of the Vols and the Titans. You know, you talked about wearing Eddie George and Steve McNair jerseys growing up, being, you know, from Nashville. And I think one thing that definitely significantly slowed the growth of the franchise here is, you know, you take my dad, for example. Well, he was a Colts fan because that's where Peyton went. So you had a lot of kids around here who were wearing Peyton Manning jerseys, you know, and then, well, now they're Colts fans, so they're wearing, and you know, I mean, it was a great rivalry, but unfortunately, you had so many people around here that were willing to ignore that Tennessee and just look at Peyton. That's obviously not the case now. He's retired, and you know, even when he left the Colts, I mean, you saw more Broncos jerseys, and now we're starting to see this influx of fans and buying power to, you know, the east down I-40, and you're starting to see all of these fans that are making that, you know, bi-weekly trip to Nashville to watch the Titans. So it is really exciting to be in the grassroots, because I really feel like this time that we're living in now, this, you know, you were talking about building that stadium tradition, that atmosphere. Our generation of Titans fans, we are the grassroots of that. And we have that responsibility to make that game day experience, to create those traditions, and to continue to push the envelope to earn the respect of everyone else in the league. And, you know, the Preds laid out the framework to do it, you know, and you see that they've done it and they've earned the respect of, you know, a lot of the teams you were talking about. You know, I'll compare it to the original 6 of the NHL, you know, and sometimes you have to ruffle some feathers to do that. And I know, you know, a lot of the Preds traditions have bothered some of the elitist hockey folks. And, you know, I think the Titans are taking a similar path. You know, they're not ashamed of who they are, and their fans aren't either. And it's created a unique experience that is continuing to grow and evolve into something that's enjoyable for everyone. That's
definitely well said. I mean, I told my wife at dinner tonight, I had a good friend. His parents always had PSLs from day one up until 2 years ago. And I remember his mom going off on like Facebook about Titans were losing. She was getting rid of their PSLs. She went off about how the Predators it was better money spent, right, for her family. And
right.
It just didn't make sense to me. How could you invest 18 years into something or however long and give it up? And it's because of what we're talking about right now is they didn't grow up with it. It's not something that's actually part of their culture. And it was just entertainment. Because that's at the end of the day, it is sports. It's just entertainment. It could be monkeys jumping through hoops, or what have you. It's just like the same as a circus. You're there to sell tickets and gear and all this other stuff. So, it made sense to me. Like I hated to see that she was selling her PSLs, but of course now look, 2 years later, Predators they just fired their coach.
They're not looking too good right now.
And it's a complete 360. And I think, but we are, like you said, creating this grassroots, like I've been fortunate enough to have season tickets twice through the Titans for free, but this might be the first year. Now we've already talked about it with my wife and I, we might buy tickets. And it's really exciting because we want them. And I think, it's just a different mentality. We'll be entering into it with a different mentality than maybe what the previous PSL owners did. It was just something that was exciting. And you also mentioned I-40 in Knoxville. My wife's from Memphis, her family's from Memphis. And I've also I have a lot of friends there too. And because when the Titans came to town, they spent a year in Memphis. Memphis really hoped and thought that there was a chance that they might get the team. They might get to keep them. And so there was, especially for their first 10 to 15 years, a lot of animosity. I have a lot of Memphis friends that like to call them the Nashville Titans. Just because it's just like this way to jab at them because they felt like it was going to be theirs. And so they didn't want to be fans. Right. And they also, of course, they had something else, they went through the glory years of the Grizzlies. They had the second longest streak of playoffs other than the Spurs in the NBA. So they had other things to cheer on. But I've seen a lot of my Memphis friends start paying attention to the Titans, and the way that they talk about them is changing. And I do feel like this past 3-4 years have been very formative. It's been definitely a different atmosphere than it was the previous 4. So
yeah, no, it's I think Vrabel, and if we want to talk about, because I've heard so many people say it's classic kind of Tennessee Vols fan, at least. Like if we have one bad season, it's like going for his head. I love Vrabel. I love what John Robinson has done since taking over the reins. And we have not faltered one step. Okay, we've lost a couple of close games here and there. But as far as the trajectory of the organization has only been up. I mean, the drafts and free agency are great examples of where that trajectory. It's the visible trajectory of where we're going, and it's super exciting. But I want to get to those 3 moments real quick, right. and then we'll talk about the Patriots game.
We could talk about all the other stuff all day. We're one of 4 teams with 3 or 4 straight winning seasons, and I know they're all 9-7, but this year, if you kind of account for 6 wins, and Ryan Tannehill's win percentage, we're 11 or 12 win team. And, we had 2 9-7 straight seasons before winning or going to the Super Bowl. And that spark or difference maker that next year was Javon Curse. And he had he set the rookie record for sacks. So had Tannehill played, and if fans are butts, it doesn't really matter. He certainly looks like a spark that allows us to beat anybody, even despite his performance last week. But yeah, I think the consistency, even though it's been 9-7, is something that our fantasy obsessed culture can appreciate. But I believe the NFL has taken notice, and slowly the media is taking notice. But the folks that actually coach in the NFL and play in the NFL, certainly I think have respected them for longer than maybe we think they have, because 9-7, 4 years in a row is very difficult to do. But anyway, top 3 moments, right? So that first moment, my I'll go backwards, I guess. So the number 3 is, kind of being part of that Hall of Fans thing. It's a really cool experience to see your face in the stadium. This year it was myself and my wife. We are good friends with Ryan at Hang Tennessee. He creates a lot of gear for the Predators and the Titans. He might have a handful of Vol stuff, but he works for an agency in Nashville. He gave us some free gear for that poster this year, and so Mary Alice is wearing the draft a fucking tight end shirt. If you've haven't seen it, go check it out. So backstory: Delaney Walker was asked, how do you feel about folks, talking about the Titans drafting a tight end in the first round? He told them to draft a fucking tight end. So that, I guess, I don't want to dominate everything, but so Delaney Walker, I really credit to like changing. He was the catalyst to start this 9-7 movement. He made Titans football exciting again for me. He, even though his first year he was catching footballs from Zach Mettenberger, it was obvious that he was different than everyone else on the team. So we love Delaney Walker in our house. So despite his injury this year and it probably being time is up, he's a dude. He's probably I like to call him the 5th best Titan of all time. So anyway, so that's top 3 moment. Yeah, top 2. So another podcast, Bussin' with the Boys, produced by Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. We, this past, October, November, won a trip with the boys. They took us out to Oakland. We saw truly one of the best and oldest blue blood organizations in the NFL take on the Titans. Titans thumped them. Everything that you could every like stereotype you could ever think of about the Oakland Raiders, it existed. So the tailgating culture was amazing. It was intense. They hassled us a ton. I could definitely see if you didn't go into it with the right mindset, you'll get your ass kicked. But we loved it. So like I said, I love that culture of that stadium culture that the Bills have and all these other folks have. They're like, it's not okay for you to come here. And we didn't feel like it was okay that we were there, but people were still generally nice. Even though I definitely could see how you could get yourself in a tight spot.
It sounds a lot like an SEC football game to me.
Yeah, in a way, it's like, just don't run your mouth and you're fine.
Yep. Exactly.
But if you do run your mouth, you probably would get beat up. So those guys were awesome. That stadium, it was amazing. You could tell that it was built for sports, not entertainment. So there was, we went to Mercedes in Atlanta this year, and I kept telling people it was like the Best Buy of football stadiums, where like you just like don't know where to look. There's so many screens. Mm-hmm. And so this place was so totally bare bones and so amazing. I'm like halfway through the game, I go into the bathroom, and it was like something out of a movie. There was so much. I've never smoked weed in my life, mind you, but there was so much weed in that room that it looked like you were going into some sort of like
dispensary.
No, like some sort of like poker ring, like crime scene. Like, I mean, it was loud. People were screaming. A guy pushed me, cut me in front of the line. And then an Oakland fan saw it happen, thought he was being disrespectful to me, and starts like telling him to get his ass behind me. And then they start fighting. I mean, it was this wild. I'm telling you, it was so surreal being in that stadium. I mean, when I walked up on it and we saw kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, this place looks like it's going to fall down, but it's amazing.
And I'll say right now, those fans do not deserve to lose that franchise. That I think that is almost criminal that they're taking them away.
So I talked to a lot of people about it. It's cool, right? Because they're so confident in their fan culture and the fact that like there are Raiders all across the country. They don't give a shit. That's actually incredible.
I mean, I get it. Wow.
Yeah, they're like, we're still going to fill up the stadium. We don't care where it's at. There's Raiders fans everywhere you go, and that's totally true. Think about the last time the Raiders played in Nashville. Guarantee you it was full of Raiders fans. And so like they were so confident, and it was cool. They were like, being a Raider fan is more about it's not just about Oakland, because they played in LA too. But and so it was cool actually. Every Raider fan I talked to didn't care. One, because they knew the stadium was crap, but two, because it was like being a Raider fan was something else other than just being Oakland. Like it's so like if the Titans moved away to Minneapolis, like hopefully there's just like, well, being a Titans fan is not about where it's located. They had gotten there, right?
Right.
And it was pretty cool. They were like, no, we'll fill it up, like, which is cool. So I like that attitude because I thought the exact same thing. Is like, that's not fair. Like what you guys have going on here is really special. It's a shame it didn't work out. I got lucky too. I asked some of the fans, I was like, hey, what do I need to wear to get beat up? And they said 49ers gear. And then after that, Chiefs gear. So I think it was a little easier going in as a Titans fan. They didn't really give a hoot about me, but so that was a blast. We got to meet Will Compton afterwards in the parking lot, hang out with his family and his girlfriend. Derek Carr was right next to us hugging his kids after the game. So it was a cool experience, really neat. So the number one experience that it was when Nike took over the contract with the NFL from Reebok, they put out a line of clothing that was geared towards like being able to wear, like, support your team at work instead of like wearing a jersey to work. So they had representatives from each team come to New York. They flew us there. It was kind of like a modeling session. So they loaded me up with tons of gear. We got to meet Roger Goodell. They had a really cool like forum for us. So we had a forum to ask Roger Goodell questions. They had a couple Hall of Famers there that day. So we asked like Gale Sayers questions, things like that.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was kind of an unreal experience because that night there was a party for us and they had a representative from every team. So Keith Bullock was there to hang out with me, and we hadn't gotten there yet. But Keith Bullock, it's an easy question. If my favorite Titans player of all time is Keith Bullock, that's who by far. There's just like, that was my favorite player growing up. So that was really cool. So Keith Bullock was there. I know he's not a Hall of Famer. Not every team could get a Hall of Famer there, but there was all kinds of guys there, man. I remember Fred Taylor was there.
Jack Suck.
Rondé Barber. Is that the DB from Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All kinds of guys. So we had this like kind of otherworldly experience. I'll never be able to do that again. They had us on the field for the kickoff against I think it was Giants Cowboys, which is really cool. So that's definitely number one in my book. So I've been fortunate to kind of do some like wild things through the NFL and with the Titans, and it's all kind of it's always been really special moments in my life. My wife and I, we got engaged last year in Niagara Falls, and the next day went to the Buffalo game. And there's just been all these like really good formative experiences that they've just been surrounded by the Titans. And so awesome. It's definitely
that's really really awesome. And yeah, those are some surreal, unbelievable moments that you'll never forget.
Oh man,
really incredible.
Yeah. Dude, so I didn't know about getting flown to New York. I figured that getting flown out to Oakland for that game was going to be one of them. I didn't know. I guess I know that you went to a Bills game with Mary Alice like while you were up there, and I know that you had got engaged. I didn't know if it was like at the game or like before. I don't know. I didn't really know.
They were separate experiences. Not at the game. I love the Titans, but it needs, that needs to be separate. No, we did that at Niagara Falls, but
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. It was, like I said, it was all a lot of really special moments. Literally my entire life, I've got all these vivid memories of. Gosh, I remember the Joe Nedney like 64-yard kick against the Giants in like 2004. I remember like sitting in front of my TV, like on my knees watching that. I don't know what year it was, but we won like this close game. We were probably horrible that year, but like I have so many of those memories. And so it's really cool. It's been cool too. Like, so you mentioned Davis, like Balls country, right? So you grew up.
Oh yeah.
few miles from the stadium. I mean, so it's all Vols all the time with his family, and living with him, like he has told me, like he had no choice but to become a Titans fan. And so like that he's probably not as intense as I am, but like I'm seeing people become Titans fans, and it's really neat. So, yeah, that's it. That's my.
And to touch on something that you said earlier that I think is so interesting that you said is, yes, sports are entertainment, but kind of in my mind, what I've seen with the Titans is it's kind of moved from, especially around, I keep harking back to East Tennessee for people like Davis and myself, it has transitioned from, entertainment, if you will, on a Sunday to a true sports, I'm pissed off when they lose, I'm ecstatic when they win sort of deal, and that is, and you talked about it in Memphis too. And, I'm not surprised about that because I feel like Memphis is kind of its own state sometimes, and that they're hyper prideful in their city, as they should be. And I understand, the reasons behind that. But for me, I've kind of seen it evolve in my lifetime with the people around me who were not as into it as I was, from something just entertaining that was going on a Sunday to, okay, this is another sports team that I live and die by. This is important to me. It matters. I'm invested in every facet of this organization. And I think you're really starting to see that come to fruition. It sounds like from Memphis to Bristol and everywhere in between at this point.
Yeah, do you know how many times growing up, like my day would be ruined. We're talking back in the dog days of the Titans, the drought, if you will, the 1-15, the 2-14.
Hey, we've never been 1-15, all right?
Wow. It's having my day ruined, and everyone just saying, dude, why are you a Titans fan, dude? Like, they're terrible. And I can't tell you how many times that's been said to me over like during the drought, the Jake Locker years, the all of that.
But I think a huge part of it has to do with Amy Adams. So when Amy Adams took over, there's a crazy stat out there. Don't know what it is, but the number of employees that the Titans employed was near the bottom for the entire of the NFL. And it's because, Bud was so old, he didn't understand how important things like social media were, and the fact that you need to employ a lot of people to produce video and content and all these things that like our age group really craves, and it's part of like building fan culture. So since she's been in charge, I've seen the stat, like we've dropped from like the bottom to one of the very top in terms of how many people we employ. And she's got a cool stat from this offseason talking about expected changes coming to Nissan and how she wants to make that the best experience that she can for our fans, but the stadium doesn't win a championship. And I think there probably was a point in Bud's later years where it was just entertainment and a business for him. And, it's kind of, look at the way the Cowboys seem to be floundering right now, and and how much Jerry Jones needs to get out of football operations. Like, Amy Adams seems to really, really care about winning. And she understands some of those intangibles, things like how many people you employ in the marketing department and how that affects winning. Because guess what? Guess who employs they're near the top. You can find these numbers out there. The Patriots employ one of the higher number of people in the entire league. And because it was, many hands make light work. So it really is true even on the football field. And so I think Amy Adams has had just a huge part of pushing that from, like you said, Drew, from entertainment to something that feels like real and tangible, and something that, it's a culture. Like it's a product. It's actually a product.
Yeah.
So.
Dude, I don't know if you had a chance to tour the old locker rooms. I certainly didn't get the opportunity to, but that to me, from a player standpoint, has got to be near the top. And now they're renovating St. Thomas Sports Park and extending it like, I forget the amount of square footage, but anyways, sorry, I got the burps going on. But dude, the locker rooms, they genuinely looked like high school locker rooms. Like before she got there, it was like you had your cubby, and that was it. And like it was like very like old wooden kind of cabinet looking cubbies. I mean, I remember watching these interviews, and that's all that I knew. I didn't even think to look at other teams, kind of what their ownership has done for them. But dude, renovating the entire locker room, that instantly boosts players' morale and makes them want to come to work. The hallway that I'm assuming leads to the locker room and throughout the hallways of St. Thomas Sports Park are where we practice. Storm the South, like just these like murals that line the walls, and that iconic sword now that has been part of our logo essentially, but we've actually taken it on as almost like a mascot prop, if you will. That's kind of like our thing now, and
there are photos from this last weekend's game hanging up, professionally printed photos hanging in the hallways. Did y'all see that? So I follow, if you don't follow, this is a really good recommendation for any Titans fans out there. Follow Donald Page. Donald Page is the official Titans photographer.
Okay.
And so if you follow Donald on Instagram, you're going to get a lot of kind of insider content and photos that aren't suitable for like newspaper or like TitansOnline.com. You're going to get a lot more of like the artistic stuff. It's really awesome stuff. You're getting all of his, basically all the stuff that makes him an artist, right? That he doesn't get to use normally. But he had posted a picture, or maybe it was on his stories. They've already printed those things out and put them on the wall. Part of
That's
changing
awesome.
the culture, because you're walking through that hall, you're thinking, if you're looking at photos of, I don't know the quarterback, so you can name Vince Young, for example. You're trying to change the culture of here and now and the possibilities, because I think that's one thing that the national media has been saying. The Titans, for once, they're one of the teams that don't seem to be intimidated, and I think that's straight from Vrabel, right? And I think they're trying to remind people who they are today, because there's a stigma of who the Titans have been for 20 years, and I get it. But it's been a really weird kind of stigma to follow, because 2000 to 2010, we had one of the highest winning percentages in the league. I just think that when you go as far low as we did in the early 2010s or whatever, 2000 to 2015, when you go that low, it is so hard to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like you lose all the credibility that you had previously. You think about the Browns. The Browns used to be a good team. The Bengals had some good years. Those are teams that one of the longtime Bengals great head coaches died this past week. And when he coached, I forget the name, but when he coached those teams, they were really good. I believe was it Rich Eisen was the quarterback, and not Rich Eisen, but Boomer, maybe.
Boomer, yeah.
I get all the generic white guys mixed up, but
it's easy to do.
But yeah, but that's a team you never think about having success, but they did. It's been wild. When you go, the number is 2-14, not 1-15. Yeah, it's almost impossible to come back from.
Dude, I my mind got away from me, and I was just like, we were so bad.
Abysmal.
5 games in 2 years. We won 5 games in 2 years. Yeah.
5 games in 2 years. It's dude, it's so hard to fathom, like back to back, and you got, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail with Ken Wisenhunt and all that, but like, so you mentioned we brought up the Patriots and multiple facets throughout this podcast. I saw the post that you had on Instagram, your all's reaction, or someone filming you guys once we had, I believe that was either at the pick six or maybe when the clock hit 0. I'm not really sure when that was. But talk us through
a pick six,
your okay, cool. Yeah. Talk us through just briefly, like your experience watching that game, with the people around you. What were you thinking quarter to quarter, and when did you know that this was our game?
So I kind of can't talk about that day without talking about the week prior. So the week prior, and kind of the week before that, I mean, talking to other Titans fans, like we could openly talk about how, despite this being 4 straight years of 9-7, this was a completely different team than the other 9-7 teams.
Yeah.
And for the very first time, there was an actual confidence of like, and this was kind of building throughout the season of like, oh my gosh, like what could we do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how far could we go? And I try to be realistic always. Like, I'm sure I see everything through rose-colored glasses, but like, there was this feeling that even that week up, I was like, I think we're going to win. Like, and I didn't say it out loud, but there was like, you know what? Don't be surprised. And so leading up to that week, that was the most, I mean, my wife and I were going through the grocery store Saturday morning, and like we kept missing things in the aisles, and our minds were we were so jacked for this game, more jacked than any other game. I'm telling you, I mean, we there was a energy, and like, even if you go back, so go to Donald Page's Instagram, you're going to see some really cool photos that just had like, that night had an energy in that stadium that, I mean, it was an all-time atmosphere. It really was. There was like, even like the color of just the way things looked, and the contrast of the two uniforms and the faces on these guys. The faces on these guys, it was just an all-time kind of atmosphere for that game. So when we got going, there was some nervousness as we were going on, but Vrabel had a really cool quote after the game. He said, I've been playing football my entire life, and from where I was standing, he was never worried. He said Vaccaro smacked a dude. I don't know how he said it, but he basically said the way Vaccaro hit a guy and the way that our offensive line was pushing on their guys, he goes, I was never worried. And so that watching that game, I was feeling those same things, but I was not going to say it. Weird things happen in the playoffs, and really weird things happen in Gillette in the playoffs. So it was truly not over until it was over. My good buddy Davis, I mean, he's kind of a fatalist, but he really would not call it till it was over. So that moment on Instagram was the moment that it was over, like that we could relax and lower our shoulders. And so it's this weird thing. And if you're like a big fan of anything, like you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could make those noises. But it was, it was so cool. There was actually this year a group in Chattanooga that have kind of gotten together. You know how there's a lot of these fan groups in different regions, part of the country. Yeah. Like we met the Southern California Titans fans that have like a patch and a flag and all this stuff. So Chattanooga's kind of got one. They've got about 30 or 40 people going to a bar here, Parkway Poorhouse, every week. And I would love to go, but like the games are so sacred for me. Like I have to watch on my couch, have to be able to like be in my environment the entire time, because it's just like, I do not want to look up and bother with, and so it's either at the stadium or on my couch. But yeah, I mean, that game was an all-time Titans game from the moment it started. Like it didn't, like before it ended, like it was an all-time Titans game.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. And I'm a big superstitious guy. Like I only wore Titans gear that we had won in previously throughout that season. Drew and I and some other work buddies, but it was primarily just Drew and I that
gave a shit.
Yeah, gave a shit. Went to the bar that we went and saw the Chiefs a couple years ago. We went to that bar to see us beat them in Arrowhead.
We exercised demons too, though, because we saw them lose to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Next
So that's round 2. That's why we're not going back.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can look at it from two different. You can look at it from two different angles. It's like we exercise the demons, from that Patriots loss, and we're 2-0 in the first round of the playoffs there. And I'll be damned, we're not going back there for this next game, because that would be. I mean, we're going to lose if we do that, right?
Yeah. No. I decided before
I'm a little superstitious. Our time. I'm a little superstitious too. Like our luck at Arrowhead has to have run dry. There's just no way. So I would love a third shot at the Texans.
Oh, hell absolutely. Yeah. Dude, especially, it's all, everyone's going to say, and we talked about this, whether it was this past podcast or the episode before, but people are obviously going to say, of course, Derrick Henry is the key to the game, but we talked about some other things, and maybe you got a chance to listen to this part, maybe not, but my hot take was going to be one of our 3 tight ends, whether it's Jonnu Smith, Michael Pruitt, or Anthony Ferguson, was going to step up in a huge way. Not necessarily be like the leader receiver, which he ended up being. But, dude, Ferguson came out of nowhere. And I think you talked about, I think it was you earlier talked about Tannehill didn't have a great game this past week. And, of course, he's going to say what kind of I guess the organization and the rest of the team and the press want to hear, it was a team win, this, we're going to take this, we're going to get to work tomorrow. But he's pissed off at himself. Oh, yeah. He's he's ready to have a hell of a game coming up, and he's going to fucking need one.
He had a 61 passer rating and only 70 some odd yards of passing. One terrible interception, but and you and I talked about this. We're talking about our quarterback, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. God, I got rattled there for a second. I was like, wait.
I was like, why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I just got so confused. I was like, I'm making sure I'm not in La La Land. I mean, I've only had 2 Titans Miller Lights, but I mean, despite that though, the thing that separates me, in my mind at least, from like a Marcus Mariota is he still dictated the offense so well and put Derrick Henry in the positions, recognizing the defensive sets, the blitzes, the looks that they were giving, and just dominated the pre-snap decisions. And that's why Derrick Henry had 204 yards of total offense, because he had a quarterback who's competent and recognizes that, hey, this is what the defense has given me, and this is what I'm going to do about it. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know what those pre-snaps were, but it was every play.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what Tannehill thinks about it. As a fan, I don't give 2 monkey shits how you win. You survive and advance.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to get into this Ravens game now. Kickoff is at 8:15 Eastern time. It's on CBS. The line that I'm seeing here has Baltimore favored by 10, which would have moved from the standard 9.5 that I saw, but this could be a different book than that. Still a half point, movement is not that much, in a few days. So in the Ravens' last game at the end of the season, they beat the Steelers 28-10. Obviously, they had a bye week, and the Titans beat the Patriots last week 20-13. A couple interesting notes that I wanted to touch on. One is NFL kind of generic, and the other is this game specific. 7 out of the 8 teams left in the playoffs were not here last year. There was only 1 team that's left in the playoffs that was in this round. Last year. And I was talking to a buddy today, and I think that just speaks. I really think the NFL And, we talked about the influx of quarterbacks that are coming in now. It's only going to get better. I think the NFL is in a great place. The parity in the league is amazing. The quality of football is great. I think every single team left, you could make, especially the NFC, every single team left, you could make a very legitimate argument as to why and how they could win the Super Bowl. I guess if there were two, from a national standpoint, that people probably wouldn't, probably the Titans and the Texans. But, hey, we're here, and some of the bigger teams are not. So, the Titans are definitely playing a brand of football right now that if they continue to do this, they could make that run. But they're playing the best team in the league, in my opinion, and this will be their toughest challenge to date. So on a game-specific note, kind of neat, I think there are 5 Heisman Trophy winners who will be featured in this game. Now, 2 of them are backup quarterbacks, so you won't really be seeing them, but still kind of an interesting note. So, you have Marcus Mariota, Derrick Henry, and then you have Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and Robert Griffin III. So, of course, it's the NFL. There's star power anyway, but just kind of an interesting note. So, with that said, Matt, Spencer, let's get right into this. I mean, what do you guys think the Titans need to do from the jump to stay in this game?
Receive the ball first if we get that opportunity and score first. If you look at we talked about this last week, and Spencer, I'll get your opinion on this as well. The Ravens are 4th, technically on paper, in rushing defense, and then I know, and then so 4th in rushing defense. However, if you look at throughout the entire season, the yards per carry.
4.4, 20th in the league.
20th.
And teams are rushing only 30% of the time because the Ravens get up on them, and they don't have the opportunity to rush. So for me, it's not that hard of an answer. It's if you get a chance to receive the ball, do it and score first. And they're still going to be able to run with their first possession too. But if you make Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm, which he can do to teams, like he's proven that he can throw the ball. He's an adequate quarterback. But that's my first take. And Spencer, what else do you see about this game?
I mean, I was going to chime in on the very same thing. So they by far are. Lead the league in first quarter scoring. So it's truly about keeping it close the whole game, right? So if we get down early, if we have a bad first quarter, which we have been known to do, particularly this year's Titans team has been a very poor first half team. We've also had some amazing first halves like we did in Atlanta. But if we get down early, I don't think we are built to come back. Despite A.J. Brown, despite all this other stuff, Marcus Peters, they have a good secondary. Their rushing defense is susceptible, though. So they've had good runners run well against them the same way that like Nick Chubb did, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon only had like 90, but like it was still from behind, right? And so, regardless, I believe the NFL catches up to everybody. And it doesn't matter who you are, even some of the greats. So the defensive coordinators, if you look at, so one reason why I think we were able to beat the Patriots is because Bill Belichick built his team to defend folks like Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, all the prolific passers, right? The Rams, right? So he beat the Rams with that defense and beat them handedly. But because everybody catches up, so the defenses got leaner and faster. And so that opened up for a new era of running backs. So we're in a time in the NFL where our running backs are amazing. We have a lot of good backs, and the running back game has kind of come back. You saw that here in Baltimore on the other side of the ball. I believe, don't they have the most prolific running team of all time? And it's like 3,500 yards or something like that. It's the best running season of all time. Fact check me if that's incorrect, but
I don't know.
I mean, they rush the ball 37 times per game, and they have averaged 206 yards per game.
So you're probably right.
So they're rushing the ball an insane amount of time. Spencer, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is that the NFL does catch up to everybody. So I do believe this, like Lamar is deservedly the MVP, like hands down,
right.
And he's going to be a good quarterback for a while. And but everyone's going to get their game, and the playoffs are really weird. And I think if someone is equipped to figure it out, Dean Pease is uniquely equipped to do so. So Dean, he coached against Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator, in the Super Bowl against the 49ers when 49ers had Colin Kaepernick and beat them pretty well. So it's a different team in Baltimore than what Dean had experienced when he was there a few years ago. All new players, but it's still John Harbaugh's team, and there's still elements there that certainly on the defensive side of the ball that he might even be able to help our offense on. That there's just, if someone is going to be equipped to go in here and figure it out after 12 straight wins from the Ravens, it's going to be him, and it's going to be this Titans team. It's truly about controlling that ball. Kind of like, I'm with you. I love a good defer, but this week I'd love to have the ball first.
Absolutely. And for me, to go into a little bit further depth for those who might kind of wonder what, we're talking about with those stats if you didn't listen to the last podcast. So opponents pass the ball 63% of the time against the Ravens, and they run the ball 36% of the time, which is basically the complete opposite of what you normally see. And the Ravens are 14-2. So, what that tells you is that a lot of teams are playing from behind against a really good team. Now, the problem with that from an opposition standpoint is if you get down early, now you're being forced to throw the football against one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, I don't know if they're the Patriots. I think that there's a little bit, at least on paper, more opportunities for us to move the football on them than New England. But at the same time, 14 points, it ain't going to win this ball game, as you and I talked about, because the Ravens are so dynamic. So, so you look at this and you say, okay, so teams are being put in positions where they have to throw because the Ravens get up early. So I agree. I want the football. Now, the Ravens' rushing defense is fourth in the league, and they're only giving up 93 yards per game. However, if you deep dive it a little bit more, like we were talking about, they give up 4.4 yards per carry, which is in the bottom half of the league. So what that means is teams might have some success early on the ground, but if they're not getting touchdowns, they're only getting field goals. It doesn't matter with an offense like the Ravens. You're getting behind early and often. So what I would like to see, to me, and looking at this another way too, if you look at the Ravens defense, on third down conversions, they're 11th in the league. So it's still really good, but it's not the best. So you, as the Titans, first downs got to be positive gains. You have to put yourself in positions on those third downs where you have manageable plays, because the worst thing that you can do is get those, stupid holding penalties like we were getting earlier in the season, those drive killers. And because if you do that, if you punt the football to this Ravens team a couple times and you come away with nothing and you're going 3 and out, this team is going to get up on you early and often. It's going to throw off your offensive rhythm, and you're going to have to do something that you're not well equipped to do. The Titans are at their best, and this is so cliche, but when they're setting up the pass through the run, if the Titans are able to control the ball, control the time of possession like they were against the Patriots, I see no reason that this game at the very least will not be more competitive than people are thinking. However, if Tannehill plays the way that he played against the Patriots, and I understand that some of that was a product of what the Patriots were giving us and probably what our game plan was on the ground as far as just grounding and pounding them, but if we're not able to move the football through the air and be a little bit more dynamic, it could be a long day for the Titans. So to me, nice positive yards on first down, put yourself into manageable third down situations, because the opportunities will be there if you do that. So that's the way that I look at it. I know that's kind of summing up everything that you guys said, but I really want to see us get those positive yards on first down, continue to assert our will in the trenches, so we're not put in those third and long situations and giving the Ravens the ball right back and wearing our defense out.
Yeah, and here's a hot take. Depending on what the Ravens give us on our first possession, whether that's when we first play of the game or whether that's after hopefully they punt to us. Hot take: if they stack the box, play action pass to AJ Brown or somebody, maybe the tight end across the middle of the field. But my hot take is they're going to prepare for Derrick Henry as they should, and he had 35 carries last week, something like that.
Damn near it. Yeah.
He's not going to get that many. I would assume mid-20s.
Well, we would hope not. The Titans need to be more versatile on offense, right?
I honestly, AJ Brown was pretty quiet this past game. He, to me, is going to be the person to look out for. I don't see. Gilmore is playing on another level. Last week versus the Patriots, the number one corner of the league, arguably, or he's in the argument for defensive player of the year. And he did a good job. We weren't able to do that well whenever we did attempt to pass the ball. But Derrick Henry was working. So why would you change from that? They literally just couldn't stop us. But, I don't know what other thoughts come to your mind, Spencer, about this game coming up.
So one of the coolest things about the NFL, and you kind of talked about this, or one of you guys did earlier, is how everything, the salary cap era, it's all geared towards parity. And so even though it is a 16 game season, it's a long season. So you kind of have seasons within seasons. So if you go back and look at the Baltimore Ravens season, they played more close games than you think. And they also got blown out by some teams that, depending on when it happened. So I say by some teams, they got blown out by the Browns, right? But it was early in the season. It was a motivated Browns team. And so the tone of that game was totally different than when they saw the Browns again later that year, or when they saw the Steelers at the end of the year. So you've got these seasons within seasons, right? And so it's easy to look at 12-win team from the Ravens. Oh my gosh, they're unbeatable, right? They are the best team and they deserve that title. But there was a time in 2008 where we were the best team in the league and we were 13-3 and the Ravens came in and they smacked us. Yeah. And so now they kicked our ass, but they also intentionally hurt Chris Johnson in the pile. That's another conversation. So I look at this game.
Yeah, that was brutal.
And fuck Algie Crumpler.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dropping the ball. But so I'm glad that we all remember that. But I'm looking at their schedule right now, right? And so there's some closer games there. So if you look at the Ravens Steelers first matchup, it's overtime game. They won by 3. So that's a motivated Steelers team working on their third quarterback. They 23-17 against the Bengals the first time they saw the Bengals. And I know these are all division games, but these are motivated teams putting up their best effort and coming. Browns blowing them out, but the Steelers and Bengals also coming a possession with that.
And a motivated Ravens team. Going into that Steelers game, they're 2-2. Going into that Cincinnati game, they're 3-2. So yeah, I totally agree with you. They're putting forth their best effort too. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What we remember, so they played quite a few primetime games this year. So what we remember is the 45-6 Thursday night game against the Rams because we were all watching. It was the only game on. Yeah. You remember some of these 5-touchdown games that, goodness, they deserve, particularly Lamar Jackson deserves every bit of credit for that. But the NFL it's true. The difference between the worst team and the best team is not the margin. And I think we try to make it to be all the time. So we don't know what's going to happen. It's the playoffs. I think coaching comes to the forefront the most during this time. Everyone's got dudes, right? And so it's really exciting. We don't know what's going to happen. If you remember though, there's so many elements, right? So Lamar hasn't played in 3 weeks or like 2.5 weeks or whatever it is, right? Last year he got to sit. Did he sit a week last year before they played the Chargers, or did he play? Because the Ravens lost their playoff game against the Chargers. And I know it's a different team, different year, all that good stuff, but we don't have a track record to say Lamar is going to be good in the playoffs. It's a different ball game. 13-3 Titans. 13-3 Titans got smacked by the Ravens. And I believe, was it 2003 or early 2000s? We also had the best team in the league, and they've done it to us twice. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Obviously, we hope there's some poetry there, but we don't know.
I'm a big believer in momentum too. And I mean, I think one comparison that I can make a lot of to this is kind of, I guess, baseball. You'll see these teams that'll be hot all year and they'll wrap up the division with a few series to go and they'll kind of rest on their laurels. And kind of cranking your engine back up sometimes in sports can be a little bit difficult, right? So, and I'm not saying that's going to happen with the Ravens, but it is a possibility. I mean, like you said,
what's the cornerback not named Marcus Peters? What's his name for the Ravens?
Jimmy.
No, it's not
Jimmy Smith. Their other quarterback. It's like not Roby. Whatever. Their other quarterback.
The Ravens' other quarterback, Robert Griffin III?
No, corner.
No, corner. Well, regardless, they were talking about after the game, their Week 17 game against the Steelers. But maybe it was beforehand. What kind of motivation do you have going into this meaningless game? And he talked about how important it was because it was a division game. They hate the Steelers, blah, blah, blah. But he made a comment. Probably both of you read this, maybe not, about it's not the Titans. We're motivated. Like they're motivated to beat the Steelers. So I think there is something to say about resting on your laurels. We don't know where their mindset actually is at 14-2. If they actually respect the Titans, if they're looking at, stop Derrick Henry from getting the ball 35 times.
Right.
Fine. Like the reality is Tannehill played at an elite level this year, top 5 quarterback level. And I do believe that there's going to be some opportunity to throw the ball. He's not going to be afraid to throw the ball in the same way that I'm Marcus's biggest fan. I'm a Titans fan, so I love Marcus, right? But there's this element in Tannehill's game where he's not afraid. He doesn't have as much as Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick's at this place in his career where he doesn't care if he throws 6 touchdowns or 6 interceptions. He's playing for his life. Tannehill has that element of him, and it's like he's unlocked something, right? So, I think we're all very excited, but we don't know what's going to happen.
And on that note, we don't know where the Ravens are, but guess what? We know exactly where the hell the Titans are. Yeah. They are flying high. They have all the confidence in the world. They just beat the dynasty
in fucking Foxborough.
So, I mean, if we're just talking about this from a confidence standpoint, kind of leveling the playing field, if you will, I'll tell you this. The Titans are not going to be intimidated going into Baltimore.
No.
They're not going to be intimidated by that crowd.
No.
They're not going to be intimidated by the late kickoff. They're not going to be intimidated by all eyes on them. Because guess what? They did it last week. So,
but Mike Mularkey's teams would have been. It's Mike Vrabel that has allowed that to happen. And it didn't happen overnight.
And I wanted to talk to you about that, Spencer. And you're so and let's be honest before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Okay, we have seen this shit literally from the Titans before. Okay, they go into Kansas City. Just most recent memory. They get a huge win. Holy shit, how the hell did they do that? And then what happens the next week? You get I'm not saying if they lost to the Ravens it'd be a, quote, letdown, because we are going up against the best team in the league. But Spencer, and then Matt, I'll get your input on this after his. What's the difference? Like if you're a, just casual NFL fan that's hoping to see a good game, you know, what reason do you give people to tune in and watch this football game, and why do you think it'll be different this time compared to previous one and done runs we've seen from the Titans?
So I don't have the cachet that, you know, someone on TV does, or a previous football player or something like that. So one, I do want to give credit to Mike Mularkey for changing the culture. I think he was a critical part of getting us here. I think he was an important part of getting us here. He just didn't have the tools to get us here. And I go back to there's a video after we won the Kansas City game. It's like everyone's celebrating. Delaney comes through the tunnel, screams, "They counted us out." It's an awesome video. It makes me and my wife tear up. It's amazing. But in this, Davis Burton, good friend of mine, likes the Titans. We watched this for the very first time, and Mike Mularkey, his tone with that team was one of the greatest wins I've ever had the pleasure to be a part of. And there was this like disbelief, like he didn't think that they could win. Now granted, they came back from like 16, 18 points or whatever it was. So they probably shouldn't have won. But there was this tone and this, what makes Mike Vrabel so enigmatic is his confidence. He did not want to be the sheep this week. He wanted to be the lion. He wanted to be the guy that took down the dynasty. And he even stopped some reporters this past week from talking about, does it feel like you're going to go see family up in Gillette? He's like, we're done with that. Like, that is done. And so from, you know, if I was trying to get someone to watch this game, I have truly watched every single football game from the Titans since I can remember. I mean, 7, 8 years old, however old I was when the Titans came to town. I have watched every single game, and this is the fourth 9-7 team, and there is an eye test. There is a confidence that we have never had. Even if we lose, it is not going to be the disappointment that we had in Foxborough 2 years ago, because we never believed, fans did not believe they had a shot.
No,
I 100% believe 100% believe that the Ravens are the better team. I also 100% believe that we could beat them.
And I think that's what happens when your offense is predicated on pounding the rock. Like, I know we've gotten into this era of throw the football, but dude, I mean, where I'm from, East Tennessee, SEC football, if you can pound the rock, you can beat anybody. And that's what the Titans can do. And I think that's why anyone should be confident that the Titans can beat anybody on any given day.
Because it matters in particular because the modern NFL defense has been built to beat the pass. That's why you have this position, right? You have this new position that's really like this hybrid linebacker lineman. Yeah, you've got this, whatever they're calling it now. They got a bunch of names for it. The Jadeveon Clowney, right? And that position is built to rush the passer. And when your interior, your front seven is lighter in the britches, you have an ability to run the ball. And now that we have the best running back in the league, we have an ability to run the ball better than anyone else. Now, granted, the Ravens have the best athlete in the league, so there's a whole different element in conversation there. But that's why it's possible right now, is because defenses they've changed the way that they built defenses to deal with Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, all these folks.
Right.
And has opened the door for a great group of running backs in the league right now. I mean, there's guys like Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, that I don't think they would have been successful 10, 15 years ago, kind of like when this new passing era was coming up on us, but everything's cyclical, right? So you can't be all things at once. Right now we have defenses built. Right now we have defenses built to stop the pass. It has made the front seven lighter in the britches, and so good running backs are having success even against good defenses like the Ravens. So Nick Chubb, like we said, had a great day. Barkley had a good day. We will be able to run the ball. It's all about, I think I'm really true. And we've talked a lot about the offense. I am more concerned about our defense. I'm more concerned making sure Dory's playing, making sure that Jayon's playing, than I am on offense. I really am not. We were scoring 30 points a game with Tannehill. I'm not concerned with our ability to score points. Right. I'm concerned with, if we get down early, do we crumble like we have in the past? what is our ability to make adjustments? I think that's something we lacked in the past, something that we've gotten better at is to make adjustments. If we keep it close in the half, we believe that we can figure it out. So I want to see, I think Dean Pease is a great coordinator, but I also think he's good for a dud every once in a while.
I've got one generic question that I kind of want to ask you, and then a specific question. So first, you talked about the Titans are in a unique situation because they have a running back that can dominate defenses that are set up for the pass. I've heard a lot of people in the national media talk about this is the new NFL, right? And I mean, I don't know why they seem to just be using that phrase this year because it's been coming for a long time. But my first question to you is, and you use the word cyclical, and that's exactly the word I was going to use. Do you think the offensive philosophy of the NFL in some ways is cyclical? Do you think we'll see teams eventually start to switch back to this kind of power running game? Or do you think it'll stay in this, spread RPO system that is so popular through pretty much, college, high school, and the NFL? And then my second question is, I noticed against the Patriots last week, the Titans really seemed to struggle early in the game defending runs off tackle. So specifically, and Matt, I obviously you can chime in on both of these as well. What do the Titans need to do differently to defend the edge, to defend those RPO looks? And, because we've been talking so much about how the Ravens are going to defend, our power running game. Well, I mean, the Ravens have almost 3,500 rushing yards like you were talking about. So what does our defense need to do differently to contain the edge, to keep it between, inside the box and clog up those running lanes? But first of all, I would like to hear your all's opinions on, is this the NFL now, or is it cyclical? Do we think we'll see it transition back?
I don't believe it's totally cyclical. I think things they come back around, but they look different, right? So I think what you're seeing with the Ravens right now is the best of both worlds, right? So they are still tough, hard-nosed football. Like if you think about, like when I think about Mark Ingram, I really do think about Alabama. I think about Derrick Henry. I think about a bang 'em up, like kind of just old school football player. But when you pair him with this unique athlete, you're getting best of both worlds, right? You're not getting Marcus Mariota, Oregon, West Coast offense. You are getting RPOs. You're getting RPOs. You're getting a lot of different looks, but you're beating them up while doing it instead of looking good doing it. Like it does. It's not like now Lamar looks good. He's good for 2-3 plays where you're like, how did he do that?
Right.
But the Ravens are still who they've always been. They are hard nosed. There's an intimidation factor. They're an old school football team, but they're doing it with a spoiler now. And I think so. I think that is the model. I think you're going to look at. You really got to look at, because teams are getting bigger, stronger, faster. Your quarterbacks of the future are going to have to be mobile, and they know that. And that's why even guys like Joe Burrow at LSU he's got a running game. Tannehill has a running game. Yep. The moment that Marcus started to question his ability to move after he broke his leg, his effectiveness began to decline, and then it just spiraled from there. Right, a lot of ups and downs, but it was. You have to be able to move in the pocket, and that's why I take for the end of the Jets game, not the Jets game. The Eagles game this past weekend. Had McCollum been able to move at the very end of that game, they're probably scoring points. But he was immobile. He's probably never been able to move is a thing though, because he wasn't built in that way. Never has been. So I do think the NFL, it is cyclical. You're going to see a better emphasis on the run because, there's just parts and elements of the game that are never going to go away. Time of possession we're not going to change the rules, right? Like an incompletion pass is still going to stop.
Absolutely.
So time of possession is always going to be this element that people are going to try to figure out how to get an edge. So if you are able to, if you're able to run the ball, it doesn't really matter how you do that. I think the best way to do it is a variety of ways. Make sure your quarterback's mobile, and also be able to beat folks up front. That's how you win. And this Titans team in particular has been built inside out. That was John Robinson's goal. He built it inside out, and you don't typically see an NFL team find success, even if that success is 8-8 with bad offensive and defensive line play. So yeah, I think that's where we're headed. Matt, you can chime in on what you think.
Yeah,
but I think it's a best of both worlds, to be honest. That's what you have with the Ravens. That's why they're so dangerous.
Yeah, honestly, I think that I'll speak in general terms and I'll get more specific, but like I think as long as the trends are there, it's going to stay that way. I mean, you have from a coaching standpoint, you have right now people are trying to pick from the Sean McVay tree. They're trying to pick from the Bill Belichick tree. As long as those guys are in the league, those coaches are going to be the ones, their staffs are going to be the ones that get involved with other teams and potentially become coordinators and head coaches. And so that style of football is going to stick around. But from a player standpoint, as long as Lamar's in the league, as long as you have Trevor Lawrence coming up in the league, someone who has he's the dual threat. Tannehill can catch you off guard with the run. As long as these players are there and they're able to beat you with their legs, you're going to have a generation below them that look up to them, and they're going to say, well, I want to do that. I want to play quarterback. I want to be that dual threat
weapon.
Yeah, I want to be that kind of Swiss Army knife player. The Taysom Hills of the world, like the able to be athletic and also have an eye for the field and be able to read defenses. I think as long as those trends are there and these kids are moving up, I don't see this moving as far as that position. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But then you look at, players like Derrick Henry, like the Mark Ingrams of the world, that, okay, now you're it's going to be hard to find someone that is the same physique as Derrick Henry, being, what is it, 6'4", 6'5", 250. You're not going to find that. And so you can find an equivalent, someone that's a bruiser, but
not with high 4.4 speed, though.
No, it's a unique situation, or a unique opportunity that the Titans are in. He's about to go into his contract year. Don't let that fucking guy hit the market. No, pay that guy. Honestly, this off season, dude, don't. We have all this money, and Spencer,
I want his take on that too, because we talked about it last pod.
Yeah, I know, Spencer. We've talked briefly in the past about Marcus. I know you're a big Marcus guy. If Marcus played lights out this year, I truly believe we were willing to pay him probably more than he was worth. But I do believe that we had money set aside for him. What is your take on maybe not giving all of it, but we had that money set aside? Give it to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, what does he deserve? Because Zeke right now has 50 guaranteed in a $90 million contract, correct? And then Chubb has $45 million and guaranteed, and significantly less, on the contract. But Spencer, in your opinion, what do the Titans allocate to this guy? What is he truly worth in broader league terms to you?
So I don't know everything in terms of how much guys get paid. I do think he's worth more than a Melvin Ingram. I think he's definitely worth less than Barkley, right? So he deserves to be paid like a top 5 guy. But there's we want And it might be a shorter. I mean, because this is the way the league is going, right? It's happened with quarterbacks. Hasn't really gotten to the running backs yet, but I would be okay with a short-term guaranteed deal. That maybe we get stuck with him one dud year, but we're out after 2 years or 3 years. So, Kirk Cousins is there. He's there now, and it's worked out for them. I think that's something that's attractive for someone like Derek. I think it's been really cool. We always talk about bringing in like culture guys. It really does seem that like the guys who got in the locker room care about the Titans. Derek wants to win, wants to play at the Titans, which is, if you followed him any kind of amount of time, that's not a privilege we've had. Right. Guys that believe. And so I think we have an opportunity to sign him if we want. John Robinson's certainly got the ability to do it. I think we're in a unique position because we're saying goodbye to Marcus. We do get to franchise someone is the thing. So if we want to, I think if we have trouble signing him, we will franchise him because Tannehill he'll be the easier signing. We've got more leverage with him with where he's at in his career, where we'll probably be able to get him quicker than we can Derek. I do think both of them will be on the team next year. We've got plenty of money, like you said, so we're going to drop Delaney. I think Delaney deserves everything we can give him, but it's time to say goodbye. I think Cam Wake, his injuries, we'll be able to cut him as well. We've got, I think Deion's gone as well, so we're going to lose. Deion's getting paid very well, so I think we're going to free up plenty of money in addition to what we already have. They'll both be on the team. I'm not worried about that. But I think I don't want to see him paid as the top guy. But unfortunately, the way he has played, it's probably going to turn into that. But the good news is you're only the top guy for 1 year. So someone else will always get paid. So I imagine he'll reset the market, but because that's just what we do. Right. And, but maybe not. We're seeing so many guys not get the money that they deserve, like Melvin Ingram. But then again, the Chargers proved to be right. They knew they had a stud at their second back position. So I didn't know Eckler was going to be as good as he was. And apparently they don't need Ingram or don't need Melvin Gordon. So I kept saying Ingram, Melvin Gordon. But yeah, so we'll see, I suppose. But do you have another question, Drew?
Well, I was going to touch on real quick. Now, I know you're a big Logan Ryan guy. I am too. Or I would, I guess, assume you are, just being a dog lover and owner. For those who don't know, Logan Ryan has a foundation where he rescues dogs. I don't know too much more than that, but it's a really cool opportunity. I believe every tackle that he makes, he donates $100 to his own foundation or something like that.
Well, he can take my blue tick.
Or he matches.
He can take my blue tick because he's a dipshit. So if he wants to have him, he can take him.
Well, I mean, so he's going to be a free agent, and he's already being talked about being a guy that is going to be one of the top guys. He's going to get paid. Is he, for our defense, for the culture that we have, do we pay him? Is he a guy that we focus on in this offseason?
So I've got a friend here in Chattanooga, Scott Tunnell. He coaches football for Tyner High School here in town.
Tigers.
Yeah, so one of his assistant coaches was actually he was on the practice squad at the Titans this year, bounced around from team to team. This is all secondhand, but I was told that Logan Ryan is hands down the most intelligent person on our team. He's the best football mind we have. This came from the guy that spent some time with him on the team this year. And so it might be that his impact spreads further than even really effective nickel cornerback play. So I would love to have him back. I really want him back. I've only ever heard good things about him. I believe the second most difficult position behind quarterback is cornerback, because one guy knows where he's going, the other one doesn't. So left tackle, all these other positions are important, but cornerback is got to be wildly difficult to play effectively. He's doing it right now. We need to keep him.
Yeah, no, I think everything you said is true for sure. And Drew, I think you did have a question.
Yeah, so we went on for so long about, all of the just, great points. Wanted to get back to talking about with this game in particular, and I know that I think we're going to touch on like key points if we haven't already. What we think a few key factors are that we can all kind of chime in on, give our score predictions, get out of here. But what do the Titans do, in your all's opinion, to slow down this running game? Because now here's a stat, and we have talked about this tonight. Baltimore ranks first in the league in time of possession at 34 minutes and 47 seconds, while the Titans rank 30th with 28 minutes and 31 seconds. So what you're seeing with Baltimore is a team who's able to establish their will on the ground, control the game, dictate the flow of the game for both an offensive and defensive standpoint. So in your all's opinion, to me, looking at that, it says, okay, we have to stop them running the football. Well, that's a hell of a lot easier said than done. And I said they almost have 3,500 yards earlier. I misspoke. It's 3,300. So in your all's opinion, from kind of a high-level deep dive standpoint, what do the Titans need to do to disrupt this rushing game, but at the same time, you don't want to get hit over the top and give up that big play with that RPO style offense, right? So, Spencer, once again, I'll start with you, and then Matt. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. So, what do we do to stop this juggernaut?
Do you have their average yards per carry?
I can get that pulled up right here.
I'm just curious because my hunch is that it's all about first down. I don't like to overcomplicate football, right? So, like, I know this team is a unique team.
Stats. So they have rushed the ball 596 times this year for 3,296 yards. They average 5.5 yards per carry. Their longest run of the year is only 63 yards, which is kind of surprising. They have 21 touchdowns on the ground. They've lost the ball 18 times. Now, that seems like a lot. It's like, holy shit, they've fumbled the ball at least once per game. But when you factor in the fact that they've rushed 600 times, right, it's like, okay, well, you have to take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I mean, at some point in time, the ball's going to hit the ground from the Ravens in this game, and the Titans are going to have to pounce on it. But with all those stats in mind, so you're seeing 5.5 yards per carry. They're obviously setting themselves up with very manageable second downs. What do you guys think the Titans need to do? Do they just crowd the box and bring the heat, or I mean, I don't know. That's the big question, right? How do the Titans slow down such a dynamic rushing offense?
I feel like it's everything you do on first down, right? So it's about what happens from the 20-yard line to the other 20-yard line. So if that 21 touchdowns is actually surprising. Derrick Henry has 18. So what that tells me is they're highly effective in the red zone, but they're highly effective passing and running. So if you can affect first down and affect what they do on second and third down before they get to the red zone, you've got a good shot. I think it's interesting. So, like, one of the differences I've seen in this Titans team is less third downs. Like, I think Ryan before this previous game was averaging 9 yards a throw, so almost a first down every time he did throw it. So it was we weren't putting ourselves in positions to have to make a great play and then punt. So in terms of like exactly like who goes where, who does what, I'm not sure, right? I don't know that solution. I'm not the coach. I do know that we're going to need to see another really effective game from Vaccaro. He played lights out this past week. He was all over the ball, set a tone, which was really cool to see out of him. But like I said, I think it has to do if they've only scored 21 times on the ground with 3,500 yards on the ground. So they do all of their work in between the 20s. And I've even seen some really cool stats about Lamar's tendency to push the offense towards the field versus the sideline. So if we can control the far side of the field and push him towards the boundary and give him less space, to run his triple option or whatever he's running, then I think we have a good chance to be successful. Where we got to be on every first down. I think that's highly critical. If they're converting and we're not getting them into many third downs, many third and longs, then it's going to be a long day. But so we're going to need to see really good tackling from our secondary, really good tackling from some of the guys that aren't used to tackling as much. We saw that this past week because they were kind of asked to do so because we knew that the Patriots were not going to throw it down the field. They've never been that kind of team.
Right.
They will nickel and dime you all the way to the end zone. So the Ravens aren't too dissimilar from that. They're just going to run it a few more times. And so I think it's going to be maybe a little similar. It's controlling what happens early. So,
you do not want to get behind against this team. No. I mean, hey, if you're down a touchdown, if it's a one possession game, okay, all right, you're on the road. It's a great team. You adjust. But if you get down a couple touchdowns and you start forcing the envelope on offense, you could be completely fucked pretty quick.
They've got this really cool swag factor. So if they get up, they get hyped, they're only going to get more confident. They're only going to become more effective. So call it whatever. I don't know what you guys think of the big trust stuff, but it is part of how they play, and it's part of what makes them so effective. So if you allow them to get up, allow them to get confident, allow them to start taking pictures together, it's going to be a long game. I think you just got to limit that. And if it does happen, you got to move the fuck on. Because unfortunately, I think we're kind of past that hump, but there were times with this team, with the Titans previous years, earlier this year, we weren't ready to deal with that. Particularly like we've seen the Texans do it too, right? They get kind of that swag factor going on. Deshaun's got it. Deshaun Watson has it. And then all of a sudden there's something, we lose our edge. It's over. So you got to keep it eye to eye the whole game. And a lot of that's not schematic stuff, but I think football's never changed. It's always going to be the same. You're going to be looking to do a lot of the same things, set tone. It's kind of crazy because, we were able to demoralize the Patriots by running the ball over and over and over again. Don't care who you are. Like, that is very defeating for any kind of athlete when you know what's coming and you can't stop it. It's funny because both teams are going to try to do that to the other one. So this is
right.
It's going to be cool. It's going to be like the weirdest I expect it to be the weirdest high scoring running game we've ever seen because
it could be a quick game.
Yeah. Because we're looking at two teams that want to run the ball. They're going to do it a lot. But we expect them to score too. So that's really unusual. If you think about two good defenses and teams that run the ball, you're going to think, okay, this is probably a 13-10 game, a 17-10 game, what have you. I think we're going to get in the 30s. I think the line's pretty high. Is at 44, 46 points. We're expecting, these teams to score some points, but that's really, like, we talk about where the NFL is going. That's where this is going. I think what teams are trying to do is they're trying to pick the best athletes from the NFL or from the college level and put them in space. And what's cool about all these kids now is they can all throw. They can all do a lot of different things. They can catch. Tannehill was a wide receiver. I believe Fursker played a different position in college. I think that's what makes this game really, really intriguing. I think it's the best game of the weekend because you got these two like old school teams that are going to they're going to like present themselves in a brand new way. And it's going to be really entertaining because we've all seen that 13-10 game that unless it's your team, you don't want to see it. Every Jags-Titans game you've ever seen in your life. But so I'm excited. So if I was going to predict a score, I really, truly believe it's 30-16, but I just don't know which side. That's what. Yeah, I've heard that a couple times from other people this week. We both think a team gets a 30, and it's like a 2-score win. I just don't know which team.
Who's going to have the bad fumble, right? Or the big break.
So, and if I was actually putting money on it, yes, I'd probably bet the Ravens, but I'm not going to. I do believe, one of these teams is going to have a really good day on offense. We say it's going to be close. I would be surprised if it's a last possession game. I sure hope it's not, because they have the best kicker in the league. And our kicker hasn't kicked a kick. So, so that's my prediction, 30-16. I'm not going to put a team on either side because I'm not sure which one it's going to be. I'm not wanting to come down to a last second field goal when their kickers clearly involved the Illuminati, scoring 141 points in the last 4 seasons exactly in the regular season, 141 each year. He's all joking aside, he is the best kicker in the league, just like you said. One thing that Drew pulled up here that's really interesting, we have scored on the ground one more, so 22 touchdowns on the ground with 900 less rushing yards. And we're averaging 5 yards a carry. They're 5.5. And for people that don't understand, you hear 5.5, 5, 4.5 yards a carry. The difference between 5.5 and 4 yards per carry is a huge difference. No team is – if you're averaging 6 yards a carry, you're playing lights-out football. You're a very good rushing team if you're averaging 5 to 5.5. Best, the top of the league. So just to put that in a little bit of perspective. But 900 less yards we've had more production in the getting to the end zone. And you were right. It is 46.5 is the over-under. My prediction, I think, is going to be it is going to be a little bit similar. I think that one team does pull ahead and gets to 30. Obviously, I'm going to pull for the Titans. Or I know you are too, but I'm going to say Titans are going to be. Excuse me. I'm going to say. I mean, God, my heart wants to say 35, but I'm going to say 30-23. I think it is coming down to the fourth quarter, unfortunately. But I mean, if it does come to it's a double-edged sword. If it comes down to the fourth quarter,
that's a good thing for us, right?
and we beat the Ravens in Baltimore, we beat the Patriots in Foxborough. There is no telling how far we go. If we beat the Ravens, I guarantee you the line, I'm not a huge gambler. The line or whatever, the odds that the Titans go to the Super Bowl spike.
Neither one of the teams on the other side of the bracket want a damn thing to do with us. I promise you that. I mean,
or the Ravens, really. It's definitely the stronger side, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying we have a 30-16. We're not really going with anyone in particular. You're saying 30-23 Titans, or kind of?
No, I'm saying Titans.
Oh, you're saying Titans. Okay, so
I'm. That's the thing, Matt. I am more optimistic than it scares me how optimistic I am. I don't think I'm superstitious. I am. I just can't say it. We had Wesley Woodyard's cleat that he gave us on our credenza for during the Texans game and the Saints game. We lost those games, so we put that thing up. So we think. I think that it scares me to say that I think we can win this game. That it might be a close game. My hunch, though, is we played a lot of close games lately. We're something's going to go a different way, where it's just the flow of the game is going to be a little different than it has been the past few weeks. We're just going to see they're going to be clicking. It's going to be an entertaining game, but I don't know if it'll be a last minute game. It'll be a game in the start of the fourth quarter, but I've seen so many NFL games where it's a game at the start of the fourth quarter and then something happens halfway through and it doesn't seem like the other team has enough time to come back. So that's kind of I hope that's the case, because I don't know if I have the nerves to sit through another last minute game. So I hope that's the case, is we're entertained all the way to the start of the fourth. someone pulls ahead, and then we get to relax and enjoy it for the last 5-6 minutes. So
yeah, dude, I hear you. I think, you mentioned this, and I think you touched on it as well, but I think the Titans also have that swag factor. Especially you could feel on the sidelines, and I'm a big Luan fan. I think he has he's going to have a dog day for sure. And
he was the highest graded player on our team this last week.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. Like, to even say the words, and I'm just like you too, as far as like not wanting to like just verbalize it, but I will, and I have the idea. And if the moment becomes true of us punching the ticket to go to the AFC Championship, dude, I'm gonna cry, and I don't fucking care. It's gonna be so emotional that one step from the Super Bowl, that I won't be able to contain all that for my entire life since they came to Tennessee. The game hasn't even fucking started yet. It's going to be Thursday when this comes out. But dear God, I mean, this is going to be a game to remember. Hopefully for the better for the Titans fans.
And
we have some payback for sure. I mean, we have been on the wrong side of this rivalry for 20 years. And I think that is going to, if Mike Vrabel does not present that history to the team, he's doing something wrong. I mean, there is an opportunity. I think Matt, you saw it. Drew, you might have saw it. There's a clip of, was his name Brian Billick, their old coach. It was like 2002 or something. They had clinched their playoff game. We had the first round bye. They were coming to play the Titans. They're in the locker room after their first game. They know they're coming to play the Titans. Brian Billick is screaming at the cameras to get either like, turn the fucking cameras off, turn them off. And they're screaming. And the guy turns his camera down, but he doesn't turn it off. And you hear Brian Billick go, fuck the Titans. And that team just erupts. So these teams don't like each other. We have been on the wrong side of the rivalry for a while. We've beat them when it mattered, but they've also beat us when it mattered twice. If bulletin board material, if that matters the way that it seemed to have mattered against the Patriots, because of Tom Brady's comments, all these comments, I think we've got the better bulletin board material than the Ravens because of our history.
Right.
It's certainly motivation for. That's what I mentioned earlier about it. Actually seems like these are the guys that J-Rob has brought in. It actually seems like these are guys that want to play for this team. They care about the team. If that is true, then they will care about where the Ravens stand in our history.
Absolutely. And I mean, the AFC Central, as far as the Titans and the Ravens actually being divisional rivals, while that was not that long, and I gave you all my history with the Titans, from an early standpoint in my life. When I thought of the biggest rival of the Titans growing up, until the Manning Colts thing really took off, it was the Ravens. I mean, you fucking hated the Ravens.
Yeah.
And I still hate the Ravens. And I think in this age where social media and videos and bulletin board material in sports has always been important, but, it's not hearsay now. Like there's video evidence of people talking shit. And so while that might be an old video, in this age of social media and posting and videos and people being caught, saying things, our players aren't going to give a shit about that being however old that clip is. As far as they're concerned,
immediately,
right?
So they're seeing that stuff. Yeah.
So as far as our players are concerned, that was said last night. And they weren't talking about a team from 15 years ago. They were talking about this group of collective guys. And I think that we've talked a lot about the growing of the culture of the Titans, and I think that's kind of cool too. That's taking that ownership as a team, as a franchise, saying, you know what? We have some unfinished business with these guys. And you see that growth of a franchise and building that culture and taking that ownership, not just wanting that revenge for, getting hyped up by a video and, I'm going to get revenge for the guys that were on that team, but for the fans too. You have this energy that is palpable throughout this state, that is behind this team, that has been craving, that has frankly deserved winning football. And, when you think about the emotional high that these guys are riding after what they did last week, I mean, there is no, I don't care what the stats say as far as the Ravens and their rushing attack and all this other stuff. Those guys are going in there with an alpha dog mentality with one thing on their mind, and that is to kick the Ravens' motherfucking asses. And I'll tell you this right now. I've been sitting here thinking about this a lot, about what my score prediction is going to be. And the more we've talked about this, I think the over-under is perfect. And the reason for that is because both teams are so efficient at moving the ball on the ground. I don't think I don't think we'll see a team hit 30. I really don't. Just simply because the game's going to be shortened. It's going to be all about time of possession. The only way that I see that happening is if there's some sort of turnover, a special teams play, a miscue, a muffed punt that gives, that just breaks the game wide open. Okay, that's possible, sure. My score prediction is 24-20, Tennessee Titans. I think that our defense does enough in the red zone to slow the Ravens down and force those field goals. They're not going to miss those field goals because they do have the best kicker in the league, in my opinion. But I think the safe magic number for sure, in my opinion, is 30. But I think our Titans are going to win 24-20, and I think they're going to do it on the backs of a extremely solid ground game, like you've seen. But I will make this prediction right now, and I don't know. This might not be that bold, whatever. And this is kind of a broad statement. The Titans will hit a massive play action pass for a touchdown in this game, getting the Ravens defense to creep up. And I'll say by more than 40 yards, more than like a 40-yard at least play action pass. That they will catch the Ravens creeping up. They'll hit them deep, and that'll be the backbreaker in my opinion. I think the Titans win 24-20.
I'm going to say you've got the best prediction, but it's also because Matt and I already went. Because I think I love that take. It makes sense. It's just that it sounds like the realistic dream, right? Like yeah, I can see that.
That's the way it's going to be. Yeah.
But so we talk about, you mentioned, players now not caring that was the comments made about the Titans were 15 years ago. It's cool because it goes back to our conversation about Amy Adams and even hiring employees and bringing in old players and making them feel a part of the community. Chris Johnson was in that locker room when we won. He was the best player on our team when we lost to the Ravens. And so there really is a community within that group of folks that we know nothing about. It seems to have be real, and it's they seem to care. And I know that Chris Johnson's excited that we're playing the Ravens. I've kind of heard a couple bits from him this week, and so he's excited. He's going to speak to that team. I guarantee you, Eddie's going to speak to that team. And we've got, I think we have time on our side. And we don't know, right? Because I'm sure Ray's going to go speak to the Ravens this week. But our guys are just as good as their guys, and I think, like you said, that's why if you don't know anything about the Titans other than what they had been 5 years ago, that's what's different for folks who've been watching these games. We know that our guys are going to go in confidently, which is not something that we could have said last year, 2 years ago, or before, because we've seen it. We've lost a lot of games, close games that they were things like Mike was figuring out. I go back to the Chargers game in London. This team, it was in a lot of games just one call or one play away from being 10 to 12 wins the past couple of years, especially this year, right? So If you've watched the past 4 years, you know that that's true. And so it's difficult to defend to someone who hasn't watched the Titans, but there's a handful of media members out there that you know that they're actually keeping up. So I'm curious what y'all's opinions are, because it's the first time I've talked to you guys about it. But Good Morning Football, those are the only guys on the television that actually care about the Titans.
Dude, I love that you said, because the only other person before that program started was Elliot Harrison. I don't know if you, or no, him, but also
NFL.com guy.
Who's the guy? Kind of a baby face on NFL Network. He's on that podcast with oh my gosh, he always loves the Titans. I would try to do an impression of him, but it wouldn't help at all. Anyways, to your point, good. Dear Lord, I can't even talk. Yes, they are with Nate Burleson. They give them the respect. They love the game. They love that. I think they love that the media doesn't care about them. That
exactly.
They love because they're able to talk about them in a raw manner. That like Kyle Brandt, dude, he goes off on the Titans, and it's so refreshing, because we've talked about how the media has fucked us over so many times. Like, we beat the Patriots, and all the headlines were about the Patriots' loss, and we were an afterthought. I was like, oh, like sarcastic. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot the Titans were a shitty team. Sorry. It was all the Patriots just falling apart. And so, dude, they are. I love them. I don't really know what else to say other than that.
I'm okay with. I like that a handful of media members like us. I'm okay with this past week the story being about the Patriots, because that really was the story. I also think we needed to maintain that underdog mentality this week. I do think if we win, the lights are going to get awfully bright next week, and that'll be the most difficult. If we beat the Ravens, our biggest opponent will then become ourselves, because we would have proven that we could beat anybody.
Absolutely.
And the lights will get awfully bright. So without getting ahead of ourselves, I mean, that's you see great teams all the time. That happens to them all the time. I mean, the Jaguars were best defense we've seen in like 5 years, and they were a play from beating the Patriots, right? And the AFC Championship didn't make it. So I like that we're going into this game with the underdog mentality, but we will no longer be the underdog if we beat the Ravens, because we have beat the other two teams on the other side of the bracket this year. So, and I think it's been amazing, because all of my football friends, my fantasy football groups, being a Titans fan, they rag on the AFC South, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, we've had two teams in the playoffs 4 or 5 years or 3 years. I don't know. It's been a while since we've just had one team in the playoffs, and it's a very good, very competitive division. It would be sweet justice to have two AFC South teams in the AFC Championship. So even though I hate the Texans, it would be really cool to see that for our division. It's never happened. So I think our division needs it. I think the Titans not getting much media attention it's a product of even our division. I mean, the division has, we were bad, but the division was bad for 10 years with us. So that's one thing that makes the Texans so frustrating, is they think that they were good, but no, they were bad with us. So I crave that big time. I crave that more than almost anything is the Texans Titans AFC South championship. So for the exact reason I just mentioned, they think that they've been good. They've never been that great. When my wife became a Titans fan, I explained to her very on. I said, "Fuck the Jags. They've always been bad. Fuck the Texans.
Fuck the fucking Jags."
I said, "Fuck the Texans. They've always been bad, but they for some reason think they've been good. We respect the Colts." I explained that to her. Yeah, absolutely. But like, there's a different level of respect because they kicked our ass. Like, so like, you can't actually argue against that kind of dominance. So it was funny. I saw a Titans fan, a friend of ours, and I was like, "Hey, Scott, what do you think about the Texans?" And I didn't tell him to do this. I had never heard him say this, and he goes, "Fuck the Texans," and I'm like, and he said exactly what I wanted him to say, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like we're really creating a culture." And like I've never, you know what I mean? Like Titans fans, there's a thing going on because like he didn't get that from nowhere, right?
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, it's sorry, just to put a cherry on top of our conversation today.
Yeah.
It has never been a more exciting time to be a Titans fan. So
I mean, I'm fired the fuck up, boys. I'm ready to run. I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now. I'm ready for Saturday, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, CBS, your Tennessee Titans against the feckless, spineless Baltimore Ravens. Fuck purple, fuck black, fuck white, fuck yellow. You know, let's do this. Let's get it going.
Yeah, dude, those jerseys are pretty sick, though.
Yeah, they have the best jerseys in the NFL. It's fun.
No, but
when they wore the yellow breeches with the purple tops, that was a good look. But they've only done it like once.
The old Maryland homage, I guess.
Also, my question for you guys is, what is your dream color block for the weekend? I'd love to wear all white, play an all purple team, but I'd love to wear I'd love to wear the all white. I think it's a great look. Just as long as they don't wear freaking baby blue, because we always lose in baby blue. But
yeah, I honestly, I think
I'd like to see all white.
I was gonna say, dude, I was trying to think of a better combination.
On all purple would be sick.
I mean, the only other combination, I think you're right. I mean, the baby blues haven't always ever really done us well.
Yeah, we play like baby back bitches in the baby blues. Yeah,
I think as long and dude, those if we had not, dude, I love our helmets, dude. I love our helmets now. Like just the dark navy. If we had gone like the old helmets, like just the white helmets, I think the white on white look kind of trashy, but there's a meanness to having the navy helmet with all white, especially when you guys got guys kind of differentiating up with the colors with their sleeves. I know Byron's a big sleeve guy. He usually wears like the baby blue or the red.
Big sleeve.
Dude, I'm fucking pumped. I think
all
that
white,
might be the
all white with like some red cleats, red gloves. Good look.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, dude, we have just eclipsed. I don't know if it feels like it to you. It certainly doesn't me. I could talk about the Titans for hours, but we have surpassed the 2-hour mark, and I am definitely going to let you guys go get some sleep. I certainly have a drive back to go take care of old Bruno, take him out. But dude, this has been a great conversation. Everyone here, Drew has always been on 3 times. Spencer, you are always welcome back on the pod. I'll give each person here 30 seconds, final thoughts on anything Titans related. Drew, we'll start with you.
The haters are going to tell you that our Tennessee Titans don't have a chance. They're going to tell you that the Ravens are 14-2. It's in their house. They have the best rushing attack that this league has ever seen. And the Titans are going to get their ass kicked. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, that is absolute bullshit. We're going to tighten the fuck up all over their ass, and we're going to go up there and do the Lord's work and deposit our massive load all over the entire godforsaken city of Baltimore and come out of there with a win that is going to send reverberations through the NFL. Tighten up. Titans 24. Ravens 20. Sack!
Oh, my God. Spencer, you want to try and top that?
Not going to try to top it. I'll take the lame duck approach. This is I turn 28 next month. This is my fourth playoff game as an adult. So if you're a Titans fan, enjoy it. I told my wife, she's like, am I going to have to practice some patience with you this week? Because I've read everything. I show her every video. Work has literally been like, refocus. But I would tell Titans fans to enjoy it. Like, kind of be selfish this week. Like, enjoy every minute of it. If you're planning a party on Saturday or doing something like that, like, go all out. Like, if I know anything about being a Titans fan, it's rare. Hopefully it becomes less rare. But like I said, this is, in the past 10 years, my fourth playoff game. So I want to enjoy it. I would tell everyone else to soak it in. And hopefully, it's not the second quarter and we're all sitting on quiet couches. So, cause that's what happened last year. We got real hyped for that Patriots game and went up 7-0, and then the game totally shifted. And so we really didn't get to enjoy four quarters. So hopefully we get to enjoy four quarters. So enjoy it, tighten up, wear your shit everywhere you go. So,
dude, I'm the same way. People thought I was insane, crazy, whatever you want to call it, last week. Of course, it's a playoff game. It's the Patriots in Foxborough. That's always in the back of your mind, saying this might be the last week the Titans play this year. So I took every single day, wore something Titans related at some point throughout the day, and soak it in. Of course, I'm a 365 Titans fan, but there is something about going into the second round of the playoffs. Soak it in. Take advantage of the opportunity. Go to a bar, throw a party, whatever your style is, and tighten the fuck up. We are getting, I guess when this podcast drops, we'll be 2 days out from that game, and I'm excited. I think this could be the moment where the Titans take their rightful place on the map and people start giving us the credit that we fucking deserve. I told everyone, and by everyone I mean the however many listeners are out there. I know how many there are. I'm not going to say how many, but it's
how many hands do you need, Matt?
We're in humble territory right now, early on in the pod. My point is that I believe that last week, leading up to the Patriots game, that was your last opportunity to declare yourself as a Titan fan without becoming a bandwagon fan. If we were to beat the Patriots,
we'll give you one more chance.
I stand by that. That being said, the water is fine. Come on down,
jump
brother.
on in, brother.
Come on, sister.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've been to a game recently. We have plenty of room to grow. I'll take anybody that'll wear blue. So, and we'll clap on command. So, they even tell you when to scream on third down. It's really easy. I'll take you all. Not to poo-poo on your comment, but I'll take anybody if they want to become a Tennessee Titans fan, because it's got to happen for most people in a formative moment when they're winning. So I understand that it happened for us when we were younger. I think hopefully if we continue to win, we're going to find a lot more folks. It's been a really fun week because as I've worn things last week and this week, I went to restaurant tonight, 210 Jack. I have a Titans credit card. The guy goes, "Oh, cool credit card, tighten up." Like, those are the comments that I never get. I went to Ace Hardware last Saturday. I got 2 tighten ups because I was in my jersey. So people were excited. People who are not normally excited about this are paying attention to it. I got a handful of texts after the Titans game the next day or two. Congrats, happy for you, that kind of thing. So people were paying attention to it. If we keep winning, it's just going to get more fun. So I'm excited. I think we're going to have a lot of folks paying attention that don't typically pay attention. So it's a good thing.
Same thing. My phone was blowing up. The guy, this high school kid that I get, the gas station I go to every morning, get my little energy drink, get a little boost in the morning on my way to work.
God, you're so rowdy.
The day after the Texans game, actually, week 17. I was wearing some Titans gear going in there, feeling good about myself, the day after. And he goes, did you watch the game last night? And I was like, hell yeah. That was my initial reaction. I don't know why. I was like, hell yeah, I did. And he was like, dude, I'm a Texans fan. That was hard to watch from my couch. And I'm like, this is just like you said. People are not starting, but they have been. But the magnifying glass is slowly moving right onto the Titans. I'm interested to see how we respond to that kind of pressure. But honestly, I think the brotherhood and the team that we have in that locker room is going to be able to overcome any kind of adversity that's thrown our way. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to win, but we are definitely not going to flop like everyone's expecting us to.
Agreed.
I'm going to end this in song, if you guys don't mind.
In a song? All right.
In a song.
I will stop recording when needed, I suppose. Spencer, before the song is starting to become on live, thank you for coming to the pod. Tell everyone in Chattanooga I said hello. Miss them. And Drew, take it away.
Thank you, guys.
As I went down to the river to pray, praying that the Titans would win this game, and who shall wear the AFC crown? Good Lord, show me the way.
Jack suck. Tighten the fuck up. See you guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.